I'm an amateur astronomer, and I need to tell you something that's been eating me alive for the past 2 weeks. My name is David Chen, I'm 34 years old, and I've been stargazing from my backyard in rural Montana since I was 8 years old. I know the night sky like most people know their own neighborhood. Every constellation, every pattern, every familiar cluster of stars that's been the same for my entire life. But 14 days ago, on the night of October 3rd, everything changed, and when I tried to tell people what I saw, I discovered that every astronomer, every scientist, every space agency in the world is lying about it. It started like any other clear autumn night. I'd set up my telescope in the backyard around 9 p.m., planning to do some routine observations of Jupiter and maybe catch the Orion Nebula rising in the east. The sky was perfect, no clouds, barely any light pollution out here, just the kind of conditions I live for. I spent about an hour tracking Jupiter's moons, took some photos, made some notes, and then around 10:30 I decided to just lie back and enjoy the view with my naked eyes. That's when I noticed something was wrong with Orion. The constellation was rising above the tree line, and it looked off like someone had moved the furniture in a room you've known your whole life. Betelgeuse was in the wrong position, shifted about 15 degrees to the left of where it should be. Rigel seemed dimmer and slightly lower than normal, and there were stars in the belt that I swear weren't arranged quite right. I sat up fast, my heart pounding, thinking maybe I was disoriented or had been looking at the wrong part of the sky. I grabbed my star chart app on my phone, the one I've used for years that's never been wrong, and pointed it at Orion. The app showed the constellation exactly as I remembered it, but when I looked up at the actual sky, the stars didn't match. It was like reality, and the app was showing two different universes, and I felt this cold dread wash over me that something fundamental had broken. I spent the next 3 hours checking every constellation I could see. Cassiopeia was wrong, the W shape was distorted like someone had bent it. The Big Dipper's handle curved at a slightly different angle. Polaris, the North Star, seemed to have shifted position by at least a degree, which should be impossible because it's literally the anchor point we use for celestial navigation. Everywhere I looked, the stars were just slightly off, not dramatically different, but wrong enough that someone who knew the sky intimately would notice immediately. I took dozens of photos, marked down every discrepancy I could find, and stayed up until dawn trying to make sense of it. My first thought was that I was having some kind of stroke or neurological episode, that maybe something in my brain was misfiring. But the camera saw the same things I did. The stars were actually in different positions than they'd been the night before. This wasn't a hallucination, it was real, measurable, and completely impossible, according to everything we know about astronomy. The next morning I called my friend Rachel, who teaches astronomy at Montana State University. I've known her for 12 years, we've done countless stargazing sessions together, and if anyone would take me seriously, it would be her. I told her everything I'd observed, sent her my photos and measurements, and waited for her to confirm that I wasn't crazy. But instead, after a long pause, she said in this weird, careful tone, "David, I think you need to recalibrate your equipment." "Rachel, this isn't an equipment problem," I insisted. "I'm looking at the sky with my own eyes, the stars have moved. You must have noticed this too." She got quiet for a moment, and then she said something that made my blood run cold. "The stars haven't moved, David. Everything is exactly where it's always been. Maybe you should take a break from observing for a while." I hung up feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Rachel wasn't just dismissing me, she was actively denying what should be obvious to any astronomer. I called 2 other astronomy colleagues, sent emails to 3 different observatories, even posted in online astronomy forums with my data. Every single response was the same. Polite dismissal, suggestions that my equipment was faulty, recommendations to take a break, and absolutely no acknowledgement that anything had changed. That's when I started digging deeper. I checked the websites of major observatories, NASA, ESA, all the big space agencies. Their star charts and databases all showed the constellations in their new, wrong positions, but their archive data from just 2 days earlier showed them in the correct, original positions. Someone had systematically updated every official astronomical database overnight, retroactively changing the historical data to match the new sky, but they'd missed some old cached versions and backups that I was able to access. I found a forum post from an astronomer in Chile dated October 4th, just hours after the change, frantically asking if anyone else had noticed the stellar displacement. Within 6 hours, that post had been deleted, and the user's account was gone. I found 3 more similar posts from different parts of the world, all deleted within hours, all asking the same terrified question about why the stars had moved. Someone was actively scrubbing the internet of any mention of this, and they were doing it fast. For the next week, I became obsessed. I barely slept, spent every night documenting the new positions, cross-referencing old star charts from my personal collection with what I was seeing. I calculated that every star visible from Earth had shifted by approximately the same angular distance and direction, as if our entire solar system had been physically moved or rotated in space. The displacement was subtle enough that casual observers wouldn't notice, but precise enough that it couldn't be natural drift or measurement error. I tried to contact investigative journalists, sent my data to scientific skeptics, even reached out to conspiracy theory podcasts thinking anyone would want to cover this story. But I got nowhere, just more dismissals or silence. Then on October 10th, I got a visit that explained everything and made it so much worse. A black SUV pulled up to my house around noon and two people got out. A man in his 50s wearing a government-looking suit and a woman in her 30s with an ID badge that said NASA Emergency Response Coordinator. They introduced themselves as Dr. James Morrison and Dr. Lisa Park. They were polite but serious, and they asked if they could come inside to talk. I knew this wasn't a friendly visit, but I also knew I needed answers, so I let them in. We sat in my living room, and Dr. Morrison got straight to the point with a calm directness that was somehow more frightening than if he'd been threatening. "Mr. Chun, we need you to stop making inquiries about the stellar displacement event," he said. "We're aware of your observations, your data collection, and your attempts to publicize what you've discovered. And we're asking you, for your own safety and the safety of everyone on this planet, to let this go." I stared at him, my mouth dry, and asked what the hell was going on. Dr. Park leaned forward and said, "What we're about to tell you is classified at the highest level, but we've decided you deserve to know the truth since you've already figured out the basics." She explained that on the night of October 3rd, an object passed through our solar system, something they called an exotic mass filament, essentially a thread of dark matter dense enough to gravitationally interact with normal matter. As it passed within a few light hours of Earth, its gravitational influence had literally pulled our entire solar system several trillion kilometers in a different direction, rotating our position in the galaxy by about 0.3 degrees. The stars hadn't moved, we had moved, and from our new position, they appeared in slightly different locations. "It happened over the course of about 6 hours, Dr. Morrison added. "Every planet, every moon, every object in our solar system was displaced simultaneously, which is why we didn't feel anything, no tidal forces, no gravitational disruption, just a smooth translation through space." By the time astronomers realized what was happening, it was already over, and we were sitting in a new position in the galaxy, looking at a slightly different view of the universe. I asked why they were lying about it, why the cover-up, and Dr. Park's expression darkened. "Because the public cannot know about this, David. The psychological impact would be catastrophic. People need to believe that their world is stable and predictable, that the ground beneath their feet isn't sailing through space at the mercy of invisible cosmic objects we can't predict or control. If we announced that an unknown force had physically moved the entire solar system overnight, it would trigger worldwide panic, religious hysteria, and the collapse of societal trust in scientific institutions. We've coordinated with every space agency, observatory, and astronomical organization on Earth," Dr. Morrison continued. "We've updated all databases, scrubbed contradictory information, and are actively monitoring for anyone who notices the discrepancy. The few dozen amateur astronomers who've detected the change, like yourself, are being visited and asked to keep quiet. Most agree once they understand the stakes, but we need your cooperation too." I sat there trying to process what they were telling me. Part of me was relieved to have confirmation that I wasn't insane, that what I'd observed was real and had a rational explanation. But another part was horrified by the implications. Not just that we'd been moved through space by some invisible cosmic force, but that there was a coordinated global conspiracy to hide it. I asked them what would happen if I refused to stay quiet, if I kept trying to tell people the truth. Dr. Park's expression became sympathetic but firm. "Then we'd have to take steps to discredit you, and nobody wants that. We're not the villains here, David. We're trying to prevent mass hysteria and protect the stability of human civilization. This information serves no practical purpose except to terrify people and undermine their sense of security." She pulled out a folder and showed me psychiatric evaluation forms, social media posts they'd fabricated, showing me making increasingly paranoid claims. Even a fake medical history suggesting I'd been struggling with delusional episodes. "We've done this before with other discoveries that the public isn't ready for," Dr. Morrison said quietly. It's not about controlling information for power, it's about maintaining the psychological foundation that society needs to function. Sometimes the truth is too destabilizing to share, and the responsible thing is to bear that burden ourselves so others can sleep at night. He slid a non-disclosure agreement across my coffee table along with a pen. I stared at that NDA for a long time, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. If I signed it, I'd be complicit in the part of the conspiracy to keep humanity ignorant about the true instability of our cosmic situation. But if I refused, they'd destroy my credibility and reputation. And I'd still fail to get the truth out because no one would believe a discredited conspiracy theorist. It felt like being offered a choice between two types of defeat. What if this happens again? I asked. What if another one of these filaments passes through and moves us even farther? Or worse, what if something more catastrophic happens and you can't hide it? Dr. Park nodded like she'd expected the question and said, "Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But for now, this incident was minor enough to contain. The stars only shifted by a tiny amount, and life goes on exactly as before for everyone except a handful of people who know the truth." I signed the agreement. I'm not proud of it, but I understood their reasoning even if I didn't entirely agree with it. They thanked me, gave me a direct phone number to call if I ever detected another anomaly, and left. Since then, I've gone back to my normal life, still observing the stars every clear night, but now looking at a sky that's slightly different from the one I grew up with, a sky that serves as a constant reminder of how fragile our position in the universe really is. The weird thing is, they were right about people not noticing. I've talked to casual stargazers, even shown them side-by-side comparisons of old and new constellation positions, and none of them can see the difference. The human brain is remarkably good at accepting whatever reality is presented to it, at adapting to changes without questioning whether things were always this way. Only those of us who'd memorized the old sky with obsessive precision can see that something fundamental has changed. I still don't know if I made the right choice by staying quiet. Part of me thinks people deserve to know that we're not as secure as we think, that cosmic forces beyond our control can move us through space without warning. But another part understands that some truths are too heavy for society to bear, that the illusion of stability might be necessary for human civilization to function. Maybe the astronomers and space agencies are right to lie. Maybe this is one of those noble lies that protects people from existential terror they're not equipped to handle. What I do know is that every time I look up at the night sky now, I see those slightly wrong constellations and I'm reminded that we're all just passengers on a tiny rock sailing through an incomprehensibly vast universe. We have no control over where we're going or what forces might act upon us, and maybe that's a truth that's better left unspoken. The stars changed overnight, and the world kept turning because most people never knew it happened. And maybe that's exactly how it should be. Sometimes I wonder how many other things have changed that we haven't noticed. How many other cosmic events have been covered up? How many other shifts in reality have been smoothed over by careful lies and database updates? The thought keeps me up at night sometimes. But then I remember Dr. Park's words about the psychological foundation society needs, and I try to let it go. Maybe ignorance really is bliss, and maybe those of us who know the truth just have to carry that weight alone. I'm telling you this story not to convince you to believe me, because honestly, I couldn't prove any of it even if I wanted to. The NDA I signed has legal teeth. And everything I've described would just sound like the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist anyway. But I wanted someone, somewhere, to know that it happened, that the universe moved us one night while we slept, and that there are people working very hard to make sure you never find out. Take from that what you will. Thanks for listening to this story about cosmic secrets and the lies we tell to maintain sanity. If this tale of hidden astronomical events made you look at the night sky differently, hit that like button and subscribe to Time Traveling Stories for more narratives that explore the boundaries between truth and comfortable fiction. Drop a comment telling me whether you think humanity deserves to know every truth or if some secrets are better left hidden. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for our next journey into the stories that make you question what you think you know about reality.